Once a year in Edinburgh, there is a festival. And at that festival, there are many acts that perform. And there is this one street performer, a comedian, Dan Borman, and his act was simply folds a fitted sheet on his own. You know how difficult it can be. And Borman offered it as some statement on the struggles of adulting in the 21st century. You'd be surprised how many people showed up for the street performance, all there wanting to watch this simple feat, folding a fitted sheet. And I'll leave it to you to see the video of his success, and no doubt some of you will be heading home after church because it really annoys you that even though you can't see it, you know this sheet is sitting here not properly folded. Hold on, let me just sort of put that over there so that you see it. Our creation story that we read today has God bringing order out of chaos. God's story of creation, the Hebrew people are expressing their faith that everything that is around us, all that we know, came from God. And that it's an act of love. Creation. Everything that we have is just one thing away from falling apart, disintegrating, of being chaos. Yet we have a loving God who takes that chaos and makes something new out of it. From chaos to order is what happens in creation. In the beginning, God created. We have this creation story, and of course, it surprisingly needs to be said that in our Reformed tradition, in our United Church tradition, we understand that this creation story is not written as some scientific paper. It is written as a story of faithful people who are saying, God has something to do with creation, and it's generations and all of it that is good. You are made in the image of God, and so you are part of creation's unfolding. So God takes chaos, brings order to it, and then creates something that then is handed over to us as it unfolds, as it springs forth. And so we have a role in that unfolding. Now, you've likely heard it said before, we are co-creators with God. That we're called to not simply just stand alongside of creation. We're part of it. We're to be part of that unfolding. But the truth is, how can we be co-creators? We can't really create anything out of nothing. The story is God takes creation and it's new. We take what's already there and we innovate. So when we talk about being co-creators, really, we're talking about our call to be just good stewards of God's creation. And one way to think about being good stewards is to see our role in creation as helping what is unfolding to further unfold. I've moved it around here, but I know I've got this sort of in reverse, but to somehow take what God has created and unfold it, to allow what God has started to continue on. That's what the season of creation that I mentioned last week is all about. Through September and the start of October, we're looking at our role in creation. And not just the ecology of it, but a faithful expression of following Jesus Christ involving having a particular relationship with God's creation. So, what does it mean for us to help creation unfold? Here's a dad joke, just because I'm a dad and I saw it. Breaking news, man discovers how to do origami in reverse. More on this story as it unfolds. Thank you. Our relationship with creation can either be one of good stewardship, where we help it unfold, or our relationship with creation can be one where we're folding it back on itself and getting in the way. There's nothing very ingenious about taking origami that someone has carefully crafted and created, folding this the right way and folding that part of the paper the other way, and we think that, oh, okay, I know how to do origami, I can just unfold it. We're guilty, though, of doing that with creation. What God has created, we think, is ours to simply unfold to our purposes. No. The unfolding doesn't mean undoing. Unfolding means helping co-creatively with where God is going with creation. And where's God going with creation? God is going towards reconciling all of creation and healing all of creation. The scripture we read, God saying to these first human creatures, be fruitful and multiply, and fill the earth and subdue it, and have dominion over it. And that's always been a tricky passage for us in the Judeo-Christian tradition. That our culture, our civilization has announced God has given all of creation for us to exploit. We are to subdue it. We're to wrestle it to the ground. And then we are to have dominion over it. We are to rule over it, make it do what we do. We'll bring our rulers to it and measure it, and it will serve us. That's pretty much what we've taken from this passage. But to understand what it means to subdue creation and have dominion over the creation is as simple as asking ourselves, well, how does God subdue creation? How does God have dominion or rule over creation? And that's the story that we just read about 5 minutes ago. The story of God subduing creation is taking it and giving it life. The story of God having rule over creation is giving it purpose, loving it, caring for it. It's as simple as that. Those words, subdue and dominion, may have a particular meaning for you, and they do have that meaning in the scriptural text. But how we do it is to simply imitate how God does it, to imitate how Christ does it in our world. And yet, we tend to think that subduing creation, having dominion over it, is to exploit it for our purposes. That all of creation is there for us to use and abuse. We are like dogs, some dogs, you leave them alone and they get access to the food, they'll just keep eating and eating and eating until they get sick. That's why you just can't leave them alone on their own. Dogs, our best friends, maybe because we have a lot in common. We are not called by God to be like a dog when it comes to creation and just keep consuming it and consuming it and consuming it for our purposes. Creation is a gift that unfolds, and we're part of that unfolding. So how did God subdue and rule the chaos? God took chaos and made it into something where life could happen. God took that life and he gave it a purpose and a calling. Some of you will recognize this movie director, Quentin Tarantino. I always have difficulty saying his name, Andy. Quentin Tarantino. Am I saying it correctly? Yes. Quentin Tarantino. It's a mouthful for me. And in this interview, Tarantino was talking about the state of movies in North America, in Hollywood. He's saying that, I'll give you the quote, sorry. We don't tell a story, we tell a situation. He's saying we tend to just put a situation out there and then everybody responds to it. And here's the rest of the quote. A story is something that constantly unfolds, he said. And I'm not talking about some quick left turn or right turn or some big surprise. That's not unfolding in a movie. I'm talking about it unfolds all right, he said. And when I read that quote, I thought, yeah, that's how we are to be with creation, to be part of that unfolding, as though recognizing that creation is a story and we are part of it. That we are not good stewards of creation when we see it as a situation, when we see it as something that is there, that traps us, and we're supposed to respond to it. Tarantino saying, so many movies now, you figure out in the first 10 minutes what's going to happen. A bus goes rogue and it can't stop, and you know that the rest of the movie is going to be about that bus avoiding this obstacle and this shopping cart, but you know that somehow the antagonist in the movie is going to figure things out. You know everything you know in the first 10 or 15 minutes. Tarantino says, that's not a story. A story is where it unfolds as life, where you don't know what's coming next. You're not trapped in a situation. You're in this thing called life, and you discover something about yourself and about the world. That's how we can understand creation. The theme of this year's season of creation internationally is peace with creation. Not conflict, where creation is a situation and it's separate from us, but peace with it. As I said last week, our relationship with creation begins with recognizing that we are part of creation and that God has transformed us as creatures. And from our being transformed, and from our lives unfolding by God's power, we live in a world that we co-create. We help God's purposes for creation, the beauty of creation, come to its fullness. Until that time that we discover what God is fully up to. Be at peace with creation.